You're listening to Inclusive AF with Jackye Clayton and Katee Van Horn.
Hi.
Hi.
Remind her to do that, folks. I don't know what it is that I'm reminding you to do.
If you could all remind me, and in case you were wondering who you had to remind, it's me. Welcome to the Inclusive AF podcast. My name is Jackye Clayton.
And this is Katee Van Horn.
And we're so glad you're here.
We are so glad you're here. Let's move this just a scotch, though. Let's get everybody in. So Jackye.
Yes.
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, hump day.
What are we talking about today?
Today, I really want to talk about the hate towards Asian American and the AAPI community that's going on, because you don't hear a lot about it. And the things that are happening are absolutely disgusting and tragic, like beyond anything that's going on. And I felt really helpless. And I found a resource that can help, that I thought was a good resource that we should share. It used to be called I Holla Back until someone said, maybe we should change that. So they changed the name to Right to Be, which makes sense. So it's like right to be myself, right to be native, right to be
you and me.
That's right.
Wasn't that a song?
Free to be.
You and me. Thank you.
I'm glad they didn't do Free to Be because taken.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about some of the things that they have and then share kind of what's been going on and how we feel about the different resources that they offer.
Okay, fair. So tell me a little bit about formerly known as Holla Back.
Holla Back, yeah. So they changed their name to It's Right to Be, and they say we believe a world that respects our right to be isn't some far off destination. It's something that we're building every day. This is your call to power to build a world free of harassment. How do you want to get started? And it says feel support, show support, or partner with us. So it allows people different ways to try to get involved and list those things. And the thing that stood out for me first was the training and the bystander training.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what so many of us feel like. If we're in the situation, we'd love, people always say what they would do if they're in the situation. And I think that what's hard is, what you will actually do in their trainings. And some people that have taken the classes, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I have heard really good things about the classes because it's very practical.
Free. Let's start with that.
Yes, it's free, but it's also very they're practical trainings that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they give you resources of okay, so you're on the street and you see a hate crime happening, or you are on the subway or whatever it might be, depending on, where you live. And, what actions can you take as a bystander? And, I like the term upstander better, because bystander makes me think you're just going to sit there and observe. Upstander to me means you're standing up, you're going to take action, you're going to do something.
I like that.
And I think their stuff is good because, again, it gives practical tips. It's not just hey, this is sad.
Add your name to this worthless list
of things
and your work email. I swear we're not going to do anything with it. And thanks.
But thank you. Maybe we'll sell it to,
sponsored by, some company.
Cayman Jacks or Corona.
Should we? Clink, clink.
Happy Wednesday.
I like it.
No.
I appreciate that.
So, okay. So tell me about any other trainings that they have.
So I'm looking at it, and there's preventing and responding to harassment. And so it talks about responding in empowering ways. And specifically, they have a training that's called How to Respond to Harassment for People Experiencing Anti-Asian American Harassment. Boom.
Yeah.
Not understanding bias.
Yeah.
It is absolutely, and granted, it's a short class, but to respond in a safe and empowering way. For some, I don't know why, but I think for me, this is terrorism.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is.
The things that are happening are terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that there's various hate, but when you are a 70-plus-year-old person being pushed to their death on a subway, what?
Yeah. So do you want some stats?
Do it.
So this is from the stopaapihate.org report that they did in December. So the hate incidents reported by Asian American women make up 61 or 62% of all reports. So, you know, why I like the stopaapI.org, AAPIhate.org is because they're tracking and saying, if you've experienced this, please let us know, report it. And so they're getting like real-time data of what's going on. And I just really appreciate that, because it's more of a, it's in our faces and we can't say, oh, that's not the case. Here's one I found interesting. Over almost half, so 48.7% of all hate incidents took place in public spaces. So streets, transit, and parks. And like that one, I think is one that goes back to the training that you're talking about, that
Right.
when we are in a situation where this is happening on the streets, it's happening on the subway, it's happening in parks, whatever it might be, having tools of what should I do? Because I think, you know, everyone that I've talked to that is experiencing some of these issues, it is, hey, I didn't know what to say, or it wasn't, you know, towards me, so it wasn't a big deal, or I just tried to get out of it, or I recorded it, or I did something. But it's like, what else can you do to actually stop whatever's going on? And
In a
that's
safe
something.
way,
Yeah.
without trying to be like a vigilante or get
No,
hurt.
right.
Because I think that is like the first instinct, and we've seen that happen as well. But I still feel like they aren't doing enough. And who are they? I don't know. But I don't, there are things that are happening that aren't even being brought to the attention of the public.
No.
And I feel like it's happening more because people haven't been responding to it. And maybe they have, but we haven't seen, because they haven't announced the crime. They're not talking about what's been going through. How are we communicating what has happened? What's going on with the people who are committing these crimes? That's what I've noticed. I haven't seen that. And so I feel like people aren't learning.
Right. So I will tell you, so the training that you're talking about, I think is great. There's also two bills that are happening right now. So one is in California, it's Senate Bill 1161, and that one is to protect women and other vulnerable groups on transit systems. So it's actually having the transit system folks take training and learn how to, you know, handle things when it happens, like for the conductor or the ticket taker, whomever. And then there's another one, Assembly Bill 2549. And that one is for just a health awareness campaign on street harassment and like, what do you do, what it actually means, all that good stuff. And so those are both in California, but I think it's, you know, it's a way to actually like legal or make this illegal. And then I think, so did you see, the one that happened just recently, that it was in the library and there were actually 7 women that were attacked.
Yes.
And I think like those, it is I think where you're going and kind of what you shared, it's the unprovoked, out of the blue, like just minding my own business.
Nowhere.
And this is happening. So it's not like
in the public.
Right. And it's, so there's not like a altercation that then leads to something.
No.
It's literally like I'm reading books in the library and someone comes in and comes at me. Like, I think that's the piece that's also super disturbing. That like these things are happening, and just how do you prepare for something that's so unprovoked and so just out of the blue?
Well, it says like, this is coming from NBC, but it said almost 11,000 hate incidents targeted Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders during the pandemic. And most incidents occurred in places such as streets, businesses, parks, and subways.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah, like that's exactly
Like
the report.
11,000.
Right.
And I don't know if that's in the last 2 years.
So I think if it's the same
Because it says
report,
like
it's from
the
December.
pandemic.
Yeah.
This one is from March 10th.
Okay.
But it could still be related. And that's what we're looking at now. We're about to come up to AAPI Heritage Month, and I just hope people are going to do something about it.
Well, I think the other part, so first of all,
Do more.
I think the other piece is actually learning what some of this stuff means. Once we are more aware of what is street harassment, because I think, the traditional street harassment that I think most women can relate to is the catcalling and the whistles and some of those different things that has occurred for years. But it's that, but it's also taking it further. So it's slurs, it's other things that are occurring. And you might go, oh, well, there was no physical piece, but it's still a trauma and it's still an attack. If someone's screaming slurs at you and you're afraid that they might physically harm you, especially knowing just the, what did you say, 11,000 plus times that this has occurred in the last year or so. And I think that's the other piece that people are, it just is, it's disturbing on so many levels. But I think there's also, from a cultural perspective, there's something that, needs to be mentioned here, that you have a community that is already more reserved and not as likely to step forward if something happens, or to go to the police or whatever it might be
Historically.
And so there's that piece as well, that it's kind of like women stepping forward when they have been raped, and they're like, I'm not going to do that because it'll come back on me, and then it will be, I'll actually be the one under attack. And so I think there's this belief system that we also have to figure out, but it also goes to the system of, how are these attacks being handled by law enforcement? Are they actually caring for the victims in the right way and making sure the victims are protected in the right way?
Well, it's been happening. Just like when we talk about crimes against African Americans, just as we're looking, like, it's the same. There is a history in this country of accepting that kind of hate,
right?
Or allowing those kind of things that people aren't. They don't recognize that this has been going on for a long time. It is systemic. Even like in the movies and different things, and the way that people are portrayed has been negative, or it's been really influential. And I know we've seen some things, in the last 5 to 10 years that has been different, but it just makes me sad, because there's so much representation that needs to happen, that people are people. I mean, look, if you go and, like, there are still forms that, it'll ask when you have to do like your race and your ethnicity or whatever. Asian American, calling people Asian American has been more recent. Before, it would be like, oh, it might say Asian, but not Asian American, even though,
right,
you could have been like 5th generation American, right? Like, that's being that's separate, and not having that fight. And I think some people don't have that fight because it's like, this didn't happen. Maybe this happened, but this didn't happen, or I'm lucky to be, or I don't want to bring out additional attention. And but there, again, going back, like, this is not anything new. This is the things that have been happening, just like we saw with George Floyd. People are paying more attention because it's actually on film and people can actually see it. But you're still not seeing the crimes that are happening just like last month are not news.
No. And I think that's the piece that's probably most disturbing, is it's almost like okay, well, there's just another one. Okay, well, no big deal. And I almost feel like it's kind of at the place where the, murders of Black men and women were with the police, where it's like, oh, there's just another one. Oh, it's just another one. And it is almost like a non-news cycle news, because there are so many of them that people are not paying attention or going, oh wait, wasn't this the same one that happened last? Nope, it's a different one. And so you have this kind of not disinterest, but I think just people are kind of just numb to it in a horrible, horrible way. But going back to your comment on kind of the categorization of, race and ethnicity and for employers, I think there's also just the problem generally of like Asian American, Pacific Islander, like that bucket covers a lot of territory and is so inaccurate on so many levels.
That's right.
And reinforces the idea that, oh, you're just this bucket, not like you're an individual, or you're Korean, you're Chinese, you're whatever it might be, Hawaiian, whatever. And so it's just very interesting because it's also that piece where you're categorizing folks and making sweeping
Oh my gosh.
buckets.
Like Vietnam and the Philippines and Japan and China and India.
I'm going to do a test. How many can you name?
Oh, don't test me.
No, not today. Maybe
Not
tomorrow.
today. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been a long day. You have to catch me
That
around
wasn't-
10 a.m.
That wasn't like a don't test me, like you're going to beat me up, but just like I'm not ready for a test.
Both, actually.
Oh, wowzers, folks. Jackie's
heard
been
it here
here. Yeah,
first.
Jackie's been here since Saturday. Now she's gonna throat punch me. You all heard it.
I did
You're
not
all-
say that.
Y'all are my witnesses when I get the throat punch. That's what's happening over here. So, Jackye, what can I do?
Well, you actually can go to the website to sign up for these various trainings that we were talking about. Is a good piece of making sure that we have it. I think part of it, just like we've talked about, is really to educate yourself as well about where this is going. Where is this happening? Is there particular communities that need extra help? And I think part of what is also doing that allyship, and how can you be an ally? And how can we be helpful? I think we need to have more conversations about it. And I think we also need to talk to our government, our local government, or what are we doing about it? What are we doing just to make sure that people feel safe in their own communities? And we need to take that information to our, local city hall meetings and be able to ask, because we have to make safe places. And unfortunately, you want it to be in front, but then you want people to, again, feel safe. So one person isn't enough.
Right.
And it's asking people to have these things that they're actually reporting. Why aren't they reporting? When we do find out, why isn't this news? I mean, we talk about like all of that talk about Will Smith and everything about, when Chris Rock and everything that had happened, you heard about that for freaking like weeks. Still, we're hearing about it, and but they're like 3 weeks ago, like a woman was hit over 125 times. She was 67 years old. There was a person on the subway that was like beat with a hammer.
Yeah.
And I've noticed any of those things. I've noticed those things primarily because of the publications that I subscribe to. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is really to educate yourself and find out what's going on. There seems to be another story every day, but then asking, what are we doing to support?
Yeah.
It makes me sad because I don't think, people are like, aren't pushing this as much. We're talking about people losing their lives.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that I think is critical is understanding the nuances, the differences between the different cultures. And like, for me, I am all about like voting with my wallet. And so it's, going to those businesses, we just drove around Tempe yesterday and, seeing the places that had closed, that have been there for quite some time. And that, Asian restaurants kind of across the board have been impacted by COVID. And then on top of it, all of this ridiculous rhetoric. And so like, how are we also supporting those small business owners? How are we making sure that people feel the love from the community? So like, even like in your own backyard, I guess, is also like, I am all about learning and growing and doing. And then also like, how do you bring that home? How do you
Yes.
bring that to your front door? And Penny would like to play with us, so we're slightly distracted, but we're gonna keep this train
But
going.
we're gonna keep going.
Keep this train going.
That's right.
Penny or no penny? Come here, baby.
With two toys. I also think tell somebody else. Like as you're going through these journeys, bring somebody else with you. Like there are other people who feel like that. And I think the more you know, not to be like 80s NBC, the more you know.
Yeah.
But I think like we could share those things because they aren't getting the stories. Share what you know and try to get other people to stand by you to be an ally. And I think it's good for everyone, and especially young people, because I think that that's a struggle that's been going on for years too, about like somebody's being bullied. What do you do?
Right.
And I don't know have the answer to that.
You don't know what to do if someone's being bullied?
Well, besides like call 911, but if I saw something there.
An adult or a kid?
Oh, with a kid, I think I can manage that.
Okay. So
I'm
if
talking
an
about
adult is
adult.
being bullied, what would you do?
I don't know. Every situation is different. I don't know.
Throat punching.
I'm not gonna necessarily throw.
Listen, you know how you stop a bully?
Become a bully.
Mm-hmm. That's what you do. No, I'm just kidding. What was that movie? There was a movie, or no, it was like a TV show, and it was like the mom like took the kid behind the and she punched him.
Yes.
I don't even remember what show it was, and it was like, okay, yeah, no, that is not the answer, folks. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. I agree with you wholeheartedly, like the sharing, but I also think, these stories, like, again, there's 11,000 of them in however many months. And I don't think people understand the depth and breadth of all of these attacks and all of these situations. And you might go, oh, well, street, getting yelled at on the street isn't a big deal.
No,
but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about literally like murder and like malicious, angry, vicious murder. And what it's so interesting because it kind of harkens to, I'm a Law and Order geek, and they're always like, oh, when they get stabbed, so many times it's a crime of passion, and it's usually someone that they know. But I feel like this is, I guess maybe you can call it a crime of passion, of like they're passionate about hate. And it is just like super disturbing to be like, why? Like, just why are you?
And that's the thing. It's like, I wonder sometimes if people aren't saying something because it went up when people started saying something.
Right.
I don't know the answer. I'd like to know.
Well, I think part of it is exactly what you're saying, though. What we're both saying, like the education piece and the awareness piece is so critical, because I don't think people, because the news has kind of dropped it as a topic, or, oh, it's just another one, so we don't need to, it's lost in the news cycle of, was it a slap or a punch?
Right.
Versus, hey, this is happening. And, I just don't understand. One of my dad's sayings when we were growing up is like, when we'd be like, oh, we hate this, or we hate that person, or we hate whatever. Why? Like, that takes a lot of energy. Why would you do that? And, and he was trying to teach us a lesson of like, it's not worth it, that kind of thing, to have hate in your heart. But it does like come to like, I can't imagine a space where I'm so angry with a perfect stranger just for being.
And I don't even know if it comes from a place of anger.
What do you think it comes from?
Person. Like, I don't think it necessarily comes from I don't know, but I don't know. I think like, I also think that we live in a society, being Western US society, where like violence has become the norm.
Yeah.
And how we talk about like were on like the YouTubes in the algorithm or whatever.
Mhm.
So I don't know what happened, but
Tell me.
I got on the tonight at 5. It's because I watch the news. And in my little cute little town of Waco, Texas, every night they put the weather twice a day
Yeah.
on YouTube. And I get
Okay.
an alert and I go watch it because
Okay.
I'm old and tired, have nothing else to do, and it seems very exciting. The way the
Oh,
wind's
look, it's
blowing.
dusty.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it's dusty and windy.
Yeah.
in
Oh my
Waco,
gosh, it's gonna
Texas.
rain. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, small things. So I got onto so the algorithm said, oh, she likes that short news format,
Yeah.
which is like 2 minutes or less.
Yeah.
And it's called like KXVN update.
Yeah.
So daily, I've been getting like, this person's been shot over here and this person's been killed and their body's over here. And I was like, wait. This happens everywhere, like every day. This
Yeah.
happens somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is horrible.
Uh-huh.
And learning, and it started becoming like when you have a red truck, you see all the red trucks.
Yeah.
And so it's been feeling like that. And it's like, okay, where does this come from? Okay, the beginning of when people like stole the country and made it United States. Okay, well, then what do we need to do about it?
Right.
And then it's like, who is it affecting? And it's impacting everyone.
Right.
And I feel like it's just getting smaller and smaller. Like, I don't think anybody is safe from those things. Not to the point where I'm like paranoid, I'm not leaving doing anything, but I do think it is important. It's only a matter of time before we are in a situation where we're seeing these things. And we need to know what to do.
Yes. And I guess like I've definitely been a subscriber of like, I hate watching the news because it's so depressing, but it's also you're not allowed to look away. I
remember when you were like, I'm not looking, I was like, you have to look, when we were talking about George Floyd, and I was like, no, you have to.
But it's
look, the same. Like the whole computer almost just flew from puppy. Dumb.
Yeah, don't try to play with her. Let me do it because she's knocking shit over now.
It was like, not
sorry,
great.
folks. Sorry, we've got a puppy here that doesn't like that we're podcasting in her play area. So anyhow, okay, I think the other piece that I think we should kind of talk about or talk through is that whole idea of just how do you keep up to date, but also keep yourself mentally okay? Because like what you're saying, you're seeing this stuff and it's like, oh my gosh, like, oh, like who knew it was as prevalent, or who knew it was happening, like every 5 seconds you're getting alerts for these things.
Right.
And it probably, I'm sure there's some stuff mixed in that's not as bananas, but Penny, come here. So you guys got to see Penny's tail, but what's the balance? Like, I think that's the piece that I also struggle with is how do you balance knowing and taking it all in and keeping yourself from losing your mind? I
mean, part of the things, I think it's the difference between like having the common cold, the beginning of flu season, and when we are in a global pandemic, right?
Okay.
I think it's very similar. I don't need to know necessarily about the robbery that went bad in like Des Moines, Iowa.
No, right.
And that doesn't need to necessarily be the alert. I'm cracking up over here at this dog. But I do think, and I don't know what the balance is. I think it's important to know what's going on in my own community to make sure that I can make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think it's important where people choose their news and the news outlets.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Jackie.
Oh.
So I got a article today and there's some research being done and I'll need to look it up and I will put a link. I promise I'll put a link in the notes for this episode. But there was a study that's being done about people that are Fox News watchers, that they were asked to stop watching Fox News and start watching CNN for a month. And that by watching CNN, they now are more skeptical of what they're hearing on Fox News. And I'm like, oh, wowzers, trousers. Like, but like it goes to this whole idea that so many of us are very aware of You have to choose your news, but also you have to watch multiple news programs.
Oh yeah.
To get the rest of the story and get the full story,
And
and watch it, and then also watch it, and then go, okay, let's take a third of this and 2 pieces of that, and that, and that, and that, to come up with what really happened. But sorry, go ahead.
no, and I watched like the Black News Channel, like, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see it on, I think they have it on some cable stations, but I watch it on YouTube too. Just because at some point during the day, they're gonna have good news about Black people.
Yeah.
That isn't on any other channel.
Right.
Like, oh, wait, I didn't know that either.
Right, right.
You know, and so I've been looking at all of the different. You do have to look at multiple sources.
Yeah.
To try to, you know, make some type of decision on what's real and what's not.
Right.
But I you know, it's just so toxic.
Yes. But I will say this, and I'm going to say something. You know, I think recently we've also seen like an uptick in TV shows and movies and some of these other things that has more representation.
Mhm.
I don't know if are you a Bridgerton watcher?
Mm-mm.
Well, season 2 of Bridgerton has 2 Eastern Indian women that are the main paramours to, you know, on the show. And it is actually like, again, Shonda Rhimes, God bless her.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
she's just
cranking it out. God
Yeah.
bless. But it's so interesting because there's a lot of buzz about it, because it's like, we have never seen this presented
Mhm.
as 2 Indian women, as these gorgeous, again, not monolith, but
Mhm.
gorgeous individuals who have different personalities, have different ideas, have different thoughts, and like how important that actually is. And it goes back to the same thing. You know, I said, how can you have that much hate for someone? But it isn't maybe that individual,
Mhm.
but it's the idea of that individual that people are angry about, or these murderers and attackers are angry about, is the idea of Asian American or whatever. And so it is like, I think the more representation we have, while I think it's freaking people out, and in some circles, the circles that you and I don't hang out in,
Mhm.
but the more it becomes the norm,
You see people as human,
you see
but
people
they've
as
been
humans.
represented as not human.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's never been, you've never seen 2 women, they're sisters,
Right.
that are represented as individual humans with different feelings, different emotions, different
Right.
thoughts, versus just, oh, an Eastern Indian woman that's what we expect of the archetype.
Right. Or same thing with, you know, we're looking at like the trans population in film, always murdered, always killed, always drug addict, always street worker. So that's what people think. And in handling people like that, it's always they get murdered. That like don't even have that narrative of other conversations. I put the picture up on LinkedIn, and it was the white girl looking up at all the Black dolls, like put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And I think people see it and they see and think it's weird, but like I didn't. There was only one Black doll growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that affects like
And
a
she probably
person?
wasn't the coolest doll either.
She wasn't.
Right? Like, it was some off-brand.
No, it was Barbie.
Oh, it was our, okay.
But it was
okay,
just
okay.
Christy. She had one black
Christy.
friend. The token black friend. They should have just named her Christy, the token black friend. Right.
But yeah, I like, it's so interesting, but it's also like, I am hearing the other side of it too. All you see now are the commercials, and it's all Black people, or it's all this, or it's all that.
Oh, you
And I'm
noticed that.
Oh, exactly. And oh, really? Well, I told you about the
yeah.
presentation that I made, that I very purposefully made sure it was all people of color in the entire, and had a white dude come up to me afterwards. It was like, I don't understand why you need to like put, you know, like shove that down our throats. And I'm like, if it had been
What?
all white people, you would have never even noticed it.
Uh-uh.
So like, it is that like interesting, like, we almost have to be over the top to get the point across, but also to normalize it, that it's not that big of a deal
Right.
to have a Black family that's successful, that's doing these things, or whatever, fill in the blank, whatever.
Or just a normal working class family.
Yes.
With a kid who plays soccer.
Right.
And somebody who like wants to try the spelling bee.
Right.
But they're not like some crazy family and their mom, like both their parents are home. Like that's the other type that people think they start normalizing negative behavior because that's what you think you're supposed to get. Right. And it's like, it's on purpose.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I think we need people to know. This is not by mistake.
No.
It is on purpose and I don't know who got together and decided, but it all revolves around capitalism and what can happen and how it seems to work. And now people are jacked up because they don't know what they're going to do. And so you're starting to see the narrative change, not just because of like, oh, this is the right thing to do. It's just when you're talking from a capitalist point of view, when the number one gainer of degrees in secondary education are Black women, fuck around and see.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we better do something.
Wait. Did you just say the F word?
Yeah, I did. Do a drink. Okay.
Drink for the F word that Jackye, that's the first time we've dropped the F word, I think, on the show.
We have some fans that can let us know.
And it wasn't me.
But you've said it multiple times in your heart.
I do all the time. Yes. So I want to talk about something else.
Okay.
So it go in the same vein. So capitalism. So I just recently was able to watch a documentary. It's called LFG, or Let's Effing Go.
Okay.
It's about the women's soccer team and the pay equity lawsuit. And I'm going to just say, first off, I will caveat it with, I only saw the first half because the meeting invite was for like an hour and it was 2 hours. So I only got to see the first half, which I'm kind of bummed about, but I got to figure out where I can find it.
Yep.
Probably on YouTube. Go watch it immediately, because so the theory, or what I have always heard about why women are paid less than men in professional sports, was they aren't making as many dollars with tickets and merch and all these other things. So the men are, and that's why they get all the, they get more pay, blah, blah, blah. But if they've actually done the research now, and it's like, no, actually the women's soccer team, their merch, their sales of tickets, all this stuff, obviously they were World Cup winners multiple times. They like blow the men's team out of the water. So that can't be the reason.
Right.
So it's like all the things that have been like historically the reasons why women are paid less in sports are false. And it just goes like, it is the, like all of these things that are starting to ring false, like just the tropes that we've heard. And to your point, like who got together and did that? I mean, I have an idea. I have some ideas, but
they do it on purpose. And that's what's sad. It's that you can usually trace it back to like some freaking email, memo, text message where somebody pulled the plug and somebody else was a bystander.
Right.
That knew that it was going on.
And said, well,
I didn't want to. And so you have to be stronger than that. And I think that's the other thing. Like you hear like,
how do we keep that strength?
You just have to, like, you just have to be like, you just have to step out of yourself.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. We don't teach people how to do that, how to advocate for others, let alone advocate for yourself.
How do you do it?
I don't have much choice, I don't think.
No, like, okay. So I'm going to tell you how I do it.
Yeah.
Like I am very much I'm not going to speak for someone or for a group or anything like that. I'm going to bring someone into the room that knows better than me.
Right.
But I'm also like, I do play have you thought about it from this perspective?
Yep.
Like I don't try to be combative just because I don't think that works. And, I have one of my very good friends, Angela Huey. She is very much the, catch more bees with honey type person, where it's like, if you go in defensive, if you go in trying to fight it, which is that's where you want to go, because you're mad and it's hard and you are like, how do you not freaking get this? But being able to bring people along but then also bring people along. But then also at some point it is okay, now we're going to have the hard conversations, and now we're going to have to do the hard work, and now we're going to have to do the hard things. And I think that's the piece that's where people go, ooh, I can't do that. Ooh, I don't know enough. Ooh, I can't, make this person mad at me. And I mean, and I am guilty of this. There are battles that I choose not to fight.
Right.
Because it's not worth my mental.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I have talked about that too.
Yeah.
Like there are just times when it's not going to serve you well.
No.
But I also think it is the challenging ourselves to get outside of ourselves. And I'm saying ourselves as in white people, to be very clear. Like, I think there's so many things that we see and have seen throughout the years that we've gone, well, it's not impacting me. Right. Well, hey, they're being nice to white women, so it's okay. Or they took care of this, so that's okay.
Okay, you can't say anymore. That triggered like fully.
I know.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I think that's the piece, is that like, how do we?
No, I think what you said was right. And I think the other part is, I think I do some of that as well. But then being like someone who, like, this is part of my bread and butter, listening is really important. And I kind of get excited, and maybe it's passive aggressive, but I'm always like, let's talk more about that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that when you have your first reaction and you're battling your first reaction with somebody else's first reaction, that was so funny, PS. But when you're battling your first reaction with somebody else's first reaction, like, it doesn't work. You're coming from two different emotional places.
Right.
And so sometimes, I like using that methodology of getting people to continue to talk, because a lot of times they will answer their own questions.
Yeah.
If you keep doing it and you know how to do it right.
If you keep whying them, why? But why? Tell me why.
Or you get to the core of something that is more manageable than this big, broad, sweeping statement.
Yeah.
And then you can get to the, well, I was raised in the army, like something ridiculous.
Right.
And then you have to start looking at those, helping people get to a place where they're not so self-absorbed that they could actually see it from another perspective. But I don't think you can do that right away.
And I guess that's the piece, like, it's the emotional intelligence piece. That's where I get caught up every single time. It's the stepping outside of yourself to be slightly aware of what's going on around you, to be like, hey, this is what I see, but what is Jackie's perspective sitting 3 feet away from me?
Right.
She can see that tree over there. I can see those trees over there. But if I said, Jackye, how many palm trees are in the backyard? You would say 1, 2, 3, whatever, however many. I'm like, no, there's actually 7. Because my window, I can see these palm trees over here that you maybe can't see. And vice versa. I can't see, some of your palm trees over there. And I think that's the piece. It's like that self-awareness piece that's part of emotional intelligence. But I think the other one, and I know I harp on this quite a bit, is the not just listening, but listening and believing. That's the one that gets me stuck every time, is that it will be like, oh yeah, I listened to them, but I mean, there's no way that could be the case. Oh, there's no way that Bob treated Sally that way or whatever. And you're like, what do you mean there's no way?
Right.
What do you mean? Like, just because you didn't experience that particular
thing? Why
thing?
would you experience that, you not being a woman, a member of this community,
right.
Whatever.
But also, why would Sally say that if it wasn't true?
Always.
That's the one that like throws me so far over the edge. I'm like, why would someone make that up? Or
why would someone make that up?
Because they're tired.
No, people aren't making it up.
They're tired.
Well, how are we doing on time?
Well, my friend, we're doing great on time. So I think the pieces I would like to wrap up with, if I may.
Yep.
Go learn some shit.
Oh.
I guess this is the cussing episode.
I think the one after all the drinks. That will be the cussing one. The next one?
The next one.
Woo!
Yeah. It's
we're going to call it F that S.
No. no holds barred
Yeah.
on the next episode. But actually, no, we have to go to dinner. We're not gonna drink
Okay.
more. It's not a good idea. Okay. I think go do something. Like do whatever it is. And I guess that's why I'll say like vote with your wallet. Get onto Etsy and buy some art. Go
Or vote
find
with your feet. Quit supporting people.
go find an awesome Asian American
Mhm,
restaurant to eat at tonight.
mhm. Take somebody
Go-
with you.
Take someone with you and teach them. And I think those are the things that like people, as dumb as that may sound, but every dollar counts. But also, yes, to your point, who are you voting for?
Right.
We got midterms coming up here as quicker than we will even see.
That's right.
And who are you voting for? Arizona, we got a lot going on. And so it will be interesting to see what happens.
Texas too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm about to have to like freaking move.
Yeah. But not here.
Not no.
Just as
Mm-mm.
bad.
Yeah, I have to move. Yeah, it won't be to Arizona, but I will vacation from time to time.
All right. Well, folks, I think that's all we got for this episode. Any parting thoughts, Jack?
No, but I think this is fun. I'm excited. We have more time this week. We'll record some more episodes. I think this was a good one.
Yeah. Go learn some things. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye.